I was like going back and forth about the glasses, and like I just thought of the fact that Ladies in Tangents said that glasses are like a hat day for your face.
Oh,
and that felt very true. Anytime,
that,
or maybe it was Two Girls, One Ghost, but
either way,
anytime I like think about it, I'm like, that's just the truest statement, because I'm like going to work, don't want to put makeup on. It's a glasses day, and I'm not a hat person, so like glasses it is.
I wore glasses the last 3 days to work because I just didn't want to put my contacts in.
Hi, welcome to the Music Lens podcast with me, Alex Allegra.
And Katie V.
Yeah. I had something else, but I forgot what I was going to share. Been in a very nostalgic mood lately.
Yeah.
Been throwing back with like old Disney Channel pop songs, like old Selena Gomez and old Miley Cyrus, and I really figured out that I think my writing is so much more based off of old Ali and AJ and Miley Cyrus songs more than anything. Like, I'm like, oh, there was the direct correlation right in that song, you know? So
there was that post a while ago that was circling around, and I feel like you probably reposted it too, about how this generation is influenced by Hannah Montana. Like this generation of artists.
I feel like I definitely posted something about Hannah Montana.
I wanted to, but I couldn't figure out how to articulate a comment with the post because I wanted to say something about more so like the country leaning parts of her, of like Hannah Montana movie. That's
the other thing too, is honestly I think the reason that pop country writing came so naturally to me is because even in early Hannah Montana, Miley Cyrus, like the Meet the Miley Cyrus and Hannah Montana double album, if you just stripped a lot of those songs down to guitar and vocals, it's a country song.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's so easy to see where that all leaned in and inspired everything. So it's like, you know what's awful is the fact that they don't have Miranda Cosgrove's best album on Spotify, and it's awful. Spotify, you need to work on that.
I don't think I listened to much of the like Nickelodeon kids.
I just liked Miranda Cosgrove's. I don't know why.
Okay,
that was my jam. That and
Emily I did like Jeanette McCurdy's like one country song.
I did not. I was like, ew, country.
Okay. Rude. What are you doing in Nashville? No. You're like, ew, country.
Well, yeah. What?
Okay.
That was back in the day, before I knew what country music was, so.
True. And also, like, their country is different than like normal country, I guess, too. Of it's very like pushing child stars to try and do music when they're already acting or something.
I think all of them like kind of wanted to, though, in a sense. Like, but anywho,
I don't know. Okay, remember how last week I think we mentioned we were going to do artist inventory, and then we're like, no, just kidding, we're going to talk income things instead. So we are actually doing artist inventory this week.
Yeah.
Did you do any booking agents?
No, because you said you had enough stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool.
So I was like,
I don't know if we're doing both or if we're just doing the one. And this is probably something we should have talked about before recording, but it's fine. It's okay. You can always cut it out. Or not. Whatever you decide, you edit it.
Okay.
So this one, I don't know what part this is of artist inventory.
I don't think they have parts. I think they're just labeled what they are.
Yeah, but I just don't know what installment of the series it is, but it's fine. We're going to talk about how to book a tour as an independent artist.
Yeah.
Yay. I did no research in the sense of like doing articles and stuff. I just basically like thought to myself how to do it in the way that I did it and just typed it all out.
Okay.
Because I figured that was enough information, and then you can put your input in, and that's probably a good amount of information to help y'all start if you're not sure where to start with booking a tour but you want to book one.
Yeah.
You can tour at any stage in your career. You don't have to wait until you get called upon to open for some big act. You can do like small tours and it's still considered a tour. Even like Sammy K and I went to Myrtle Beach 2 years ago, and honestly the only reason we played shows was we wanted a beach vacation and we wanted to pay for that vacation by playing shows, but we called it a tour. So
Yeah.
it's still a tour. You're still going out of your normal area where you live. So
I was gonna say I feel like a tour just justifies it as like going outside of your own home market, but there's normally like a stop on your home market, but it's basically like the tour. I think it goes more with the intent behind it of like expanding your market and your reach and performing live shows in a very professional manner, and it's not necessarily just, you know, it's spreading your music out to other audiences. And I think a lot of people have come to realize when you've done it long enough that sometimes just putting together a string of shows and having purpose behind them is all that is needed to call it a tour and not have it be this big grand thing, and not it's you representing your own music and not just like doing a bunch of cover gigs and stuff like that necessarily. It's like you actually like having your show and you're booked as an artist on like in the setting of it.
Cover gigs are still a thing that you can tour with, but I would recommend at least putting a good amount, have like a good ratio of original songs thrown in too. And when you're reaching out to booking places or to venues, trying to book places, then mention what kind of set you're planning to provide if they book you. And say like a mix of cover songs and original songs, so that way they're not like expecting everyone to know all the songs.
Right. But this gives you a good baseline of, I used to get into my little circle, well, going back to the cyclic girl circles of things, of thinking of being an artist, is like I used to sit and be like, well, if I want to play this, then they want to see that you have performed at this sized audience and can entertain a crowd in this way, and then like and getting content for that, which is again a whole nother thing, but so that you have something to present to them, but like showing that you have performed and can entertain a crowd that size and have some kind of recognition in a community somewhere. And then but it's like if you want that show, then you have to figure out a way to get into said show, and it's like it kind of can become that thing. So like just saying like this is what I'm gonna do and just sending out a bunch of emails and just getting it started, and like, you know, it's always that first step, and sometimes that first step is obviously the hardest, and that's where the circles come in and like the frustrations, because it's like again with the like, well, if I need that show I need to do this, and then it's like, and then you're just like, but how do I start there, and then you just like get stuck. But it's like it's the same thing of like wanting to open for somebody. Well, if you can show that you can play this market and sell it out and like build up a rapport with the people in this town, and you can build up your space. And honestly, I think just being, you don't have to be in a major music city to even start that either.
Yeah. I think I'll just start going through this. You already touched on the first thing that I was going to say was goal of touring. No, you're fine. That works well. Goal of touring is basically kind of like expanding your audience and trying to reach fan base. Yeah, reach fan base. Grow your fan base. Yeah. Is what the word I meant to say was. Ideally, you're also making money to like fund your life bills and also fund new music and all that stuff.
Honestly, with your first tour, if you can at least be making or breaking even
is good. Yeah,
you're on the right track there, bucko.
Or if you have a budget where you're like, the goal is only to expand the fan base, and you have that budget set aside to fund that, and even if you don't make money, that's a thing too. I don't exactly know how Maggie Baugh went about it, but she talked about it on Nashville Tour Stops podcast. So she did like a record store type of tour.
Oh, cool.
And it was the whole point was just to promote her music and grow her fan base, and she played at these places for free, so she wasn't really making any money doing it. So I'm assuming she had some sort of fund to be able to travel with that.
Right. And then you really have to be putting like that purpose behind it and make sure that it's paying off in some respect to your artistry.
You have to make it worth it.
Because that's the same, like, I don't count a lot of the shows when I'm just downtown playing here as my shows or like marketed them, because I'm just there to like put together a fund for my next project and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Not that I don't take them seriously, but like you have to know like if this is like your sole purpose of it. And yeah, I'm sure you're still making some fan connections and stuff. Like I still walk away with followers and stuff like that. I just also know that most of the time these people aren't really paying attention to you, or they're not looking for that. They're looking for you just to play the songs that they want to karaoke to at the bar next door, but they're here now. Like, so you just have to know kind of what you're doing. But like back home, when I used to book shows left and right, I used to do like every 5 songs or every 4 songs I'd play an original or something like that, so that at least it was still me putting effort into creating an actual fan base within my show.
I'm gonna say my set list, I need to update it for this. I literally leave Saturday and I have not rid of my set list yet, but I think it's about like 50-50 for mine, and they're hour or 2 hour shows, but I try and like have a good mix of both. But yeah, so I lost my other thought on it. Oh, I post when I play downtown and stuff, but that's just because sometimes there's people in town that want to go. Of if I have people from back home that are in town, they want to know, so I'm like, I'll just post it all the time just to promote.
Yeah,
but I understand also just not promoting it as hard. Obviously, you want to promote your original shows more than just a cover gig.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So where to tour, it's going to depend on like where your fan base is located, but also if you're really just like starting out pretty small, you could honestly go anywhere. But if you do have like a decent fan base, a good thing to look at would be like Spotify or any other socials analytics, and it will tell you what your top places are. So I looked at mine. My top locations are Omaha and Sioux Falls. I was surprised Omaha was above Sioux Falls.
Really?
But it was like 1 listener difference, and they're small numbers. So, but just like as an example, and when you're starting out, odds are that's going to be the case where it's either going to be Nashville if you're based here, or like hometown, because that's probably where your listeners are going to be coming
from. Well, now I'm curious. What's mine? Hold on.
Yours are random. That's why I didn't put yours.
Oh, you already know?
I don't remember what they were, but they were
Atlanta
foreign countries.
And foreign countries. I know. I get like big over in like Spain.
Well, I was trying to
like
look
that.
up like people who are like still like Anna Voss, who's like bigger but still like independent, and that didn't really help my examples. So I was like, we're just gonna go with myself. I can pull yours up. Where's your about? You should update your picture.
It's the only like studio that's a really old one I have, which is why it's
what is GB?
Great Britain.
Okay, so your top 3 are Worcester, Great Britain, Fulham, Great Britain, and Brent, Great Britain, and then I don't know how to say that, Riyadh or something. Is that Saudi Arabia?
Yeah.
And then I think that's Cambridge, Canada.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're all foreign countries.
Well, okay. The real list is the United States has the most, but Worcester, does have.
When it goes by city.
Yeah. That's okay. So weird.
Yeah. Huh.
So actually, let's look at our lifetime. This is just in the last couple of days. Let's look at. Maybe I can't do that. Oh, I can't do it. So
she's looking at her artists for Spotify app, which if you have your music on Spotify and don't use this app, you should, because that's how you can look at all your analytics for stuff.
I don't use it as an app. I just go onto the website. It's the same thing.
Website too.
Yeah.
Either way. But yeah, you could take that information and use it for figuring out where you want to book your shows. You could also, if it is your hometown, or even if it's not and you want to book around your hometown, you can kind of route it that way too. Or you could literally just pick an area of the country.
I will say,
to start off with, but you want to route it
either
smartly.
Those kinds of things, or your hometown or the city that you currently live in is the most surefire way to get in, because if it's based off of analytics, you can use your analytics if they're good numbers. If it's based off of your hometown, you use that as your advantage in your emails, and you're saying this is a hometown thing, because that's going to draw people, because even as they're marketing it, they're going to want to market you more, because it's like, oh, they're coming home, and it's like a thing. And then the city that you obviously live in, you would hope that you would have at least friends and everything else that would come out to support you. So.
And then just like logistics wise too, then you can route it with like your hometown. Hopefully you still have people there. I don't know, parents or someone you can like stay with too. So that's a good thing for budgeting wise when you're figuring out what you're gonna have to pay to travel to these shows. If you can stay with someone, that's gonna cut down your costs and help you increase your overall profit because you're spending less. And then like if you're around or routing around Nashville, you could do like little shows where it's like you could potentially drive back and forth, like how I go down to Huntsville like every other month or so, and that's like a 2-hour drive. So that's just like a turn and burn, I think is the term for it, where you just drive there, play the show, and come back. But if you are routing out farther, like I did the example of like Sioux Falls and then Omaha, you can kind of take a look at, pick an endpoint, I guess, and find cities that are in between where you're starting and where you're ending. And you can also route backwards too. So I could do like St. Louis and then Sioux Falls and then Omaha on the way back because it's like up and then back down. Or you can go St. Louis, Omaha, Sioux Falls, or Sioux Falls, Omaha, St. Louis. But ideally you're going in an order that makes sense where you're not going out of the way. I know some tours do that. Like when I look at lineups for shows on like major tours and I'm like, oh, they have to go back. It'll be like Sioux Falls and then they go up to Canada and then they have to come back down to like Rapid City.
Yeah. Almost every tour is like Philadelphia one week and then Nashville the next week.
I don't understand
and that. I don't get it. A, because I can't split them up then because they're back to back. So it's like I'm picking one. Mm-hmm. Or B, because I know that drive and it's not fun. I don't know why you guys always want to do it. Like, it's the most like, to get to the East Coast, it's like the most direct and the most, and the easiest route, like, to go up in that area. So, like, you'd start there. Like, I get it. But I just don't get it. Like, why, though?
Yeah. So once you figure out like the cities that you are kind of wanting to look at playing shows in, then you're going to want to start researching venues. And I typically just do like a Google search for venues. I know you have that one book of things that's like
I do a lot of magazines and stuff like that. My mom used to do a lot of magazine stuff, so I kind of learned it from her. I have connections through work to get certain magazines that I then put into a database of my own.
Yeah. But you could also just literally like do Google searches of like small music venues in Sioux Falls or live music in Sioux Falls and look at the Google search, and I'll find like the Yelp review like listing of like their search results, and I'll just like go through that and then find the actual website or Facebook or socials for the venues, and then by that way I can like see if they actually have music, because not all of them actually have music, and then like see if they're like a good fit too, because you're gonna want to think about like your following and where you're at realistically with your career when you're looking at these venues. You don't want to like overshoot it to playing ticketed shows when you don't have a following that's like guaranteed to come out, because you're gonna hurt your chances of playing there in the future too.
Yeah. So starting out with like festivals and stuff, festivals, coffee shops, some bars.
Mm-hmm. I feel like fairs, festivals, bars, coffee shops. You literally said all those already. I'm just trying to think of what the other one was. Restaurants. Honestly, like distillery, winery, brewery, anywhere with alcohol likes to have live music, it seems.
Yeah. Because those are going to be the bars and restaurants are going to be a lot of like your cover stuff, but you throw in like a original every once in a while because you know that there's an active audience that is sitting there at least like somewhat paying attention. So then maybe one of them has a festival down the road, and then that's when you start to draw more. But like same with like even in the gigs in the bars in Nashville and stuff, it does have a similar way of building your set list and stuff, because you want to play songs that people know to get their attention and then make them stop and listen, and then they're more inclined to sit and listen to one of your songs. If it's like a cold hear, I was gonna say like a cold read, but like you're obviously hearing, so it's like a cold read on the street, cold hear on the street.
Sure.
You know, you're not as always inclined to stop and think, oh, this is an original song. Like, you're just thinking, oh my God, I love that song. Oh my God, she sounds so great. Oh my God, I'm gonna stay and listen. So it's that kind of thinking process. This is why, like, it's not, you don't want to just completely write off your cover songs and stuff like that.
And these places have built-in audiences of, like, they might not necessarily be coming to hear live music, but there's coming for the restaurant, food, whatever it is, the bar, or because they have live music, they might not be coming for you specifically, but just because they know there is live music, and then you can win them over that way of, they're there to listen to music, and they don't know it yet, but they might become a fan.
Yeah. Farmers markets are a good one, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's better to, like, build from there, and you can get fans from doing those kind of gigs, and the next time you come into town, and once you, like, develop that, I guess, like, proof of following in that town, then you can start to find these, like, small venues where it's, like, an actual music venue with, like, maybe a small capacity, and kind of start working your way up to bigger venues that way once you have that proof that you have people who will come out to your shows.
Right, yeah.
Let's see. And you also want to keep in mind what kind of tour you want to book. Do you want to book, like, an acoustic tour or full band? Because that will factor into the venues as well. And also your budgeting, because it is a lot more expensive to travel with a full band than it is just playing you and your guitar. And you also want to factor in, like, equipment too, of having that sound equipment. Not every venue is going to provide the sound equipment, so having to factor in bringing that equipment along with you will take up space and stuff too, and just, like, factor into where you can book shows basically too.
Right.
Because, like, for example, I was trying to book at this festival for this past June with the full band, and they had asked what the budget was, and I said $1,500 to play, but also, do you have, like, any travel and lodging that you provide? If not, we're gonna have to factor that into the cost, because you want to make sure you're getting all your travel costs covered with what you're getting paid, and they just did not have the budget for it, which is fair because it is, like, a smallish festival. But that's why acoustic might be easier when you're smaller too, is just because these bars aren't going to have the biggest budget. Ideally, they'll probably be better than Nashville as far as pay, but just because Nashville doesn't pay that well for artists. But that's a different topic whenever we start talking about Broadway.
I was like, we've definitely mentioned that Broadway thing at some point.
But yeah, usually out of town gigs pay better. You also, like, when you're looking at their socials and stuff, look at what music they are booking currently and kind of make sure that they match up with your style. So if you see a bar that only books heavy metal and you're a country artist, it's probably not going to be a good fit to book there.
Right. Yeah.
But when you're researching them on the website or on their Facebook page, you'll be able to find usually, like, a contact email or phone number. I prefer emails, not only because I just don't like phone calls, but also because of having everything in writing, I think, is important. So that way, if for some reason you get, like, double booked or something, you have proof that, hey, you did book me for this date, and you can have that for legal purposes, I guess, if necessary, of holding them to things as far as, like, pay and all that.
Yeah.
When you're getting all this contact info, a good thing to do is, like, to start a spreadsheet to keep track of everything. And so I have a spreadsheet where I do, like, the venue name, and I hyperlink the social or the website on there, and then the location of the venue, so the city and state, and then contact info, and then any notes that you might have. Like, you can put that they do music Friday, Saturday, or something like that, so that way you know only to ask about Fridays and Saturdays for when you're booking them. And then once you, like, get all that, that's when you can start drafting your emails and figuring that out. But you also want to have, like, I guess, your dates in mind when you're drafting these emails, because I think it's good to have dates to put in the emails for the venues of when you are going to be in these places. So you're not just like, hey, we're available all summer. And then what if Omaha wants to book you like June something, but then Sioux Falls is like July, but you want it to be in the same weekend.
Right.
But
yeah, tying it with stuff like that, like where you're already playing in the other areas, so then they also know that you like have some credibility to what you're doing already. Saying it's a tour, just saying like, hey, I'm trying to book a tour, gives you more of a professional credibility kind of look to you than just saying like, hey, can I play your festival, or hey, can I play your venue? I mean,
like, I'll be touring in this area in this around this time, like, do you have anything available on August 14th or 15th? I'm just picking random dates, but yeah. Nashville Tourist Stop podcast has a really good episode about drafting booking emails, so I would recommend, I'm gonna put it in our like episode description, a link to it, to get like more details about that. And it's good because like Aaron's booked a tour for himself, like as an artist, so he has the artist perspective, but since he's the head of Tour Stop, he is also on the booking side, and he gets who knows how many messages and emails of people trying to book with Tour Stop, so he knows like what bookers are looking for when they get those emails,
right,
of what makes them want to read it, what makes them be like, no, we're moving on to the next thing. So it's a very informative podcast episode. And I figured let's just refer to him versus like go into the nitty gritty of drafting a booking email, just because we're covering so much else in addition to that.
Yeah.
But like, I guess just to cover the basics, it's, you want to include who you are, when you're looking to book, like we said, and then a link to your EPK. And I don't know if we want to do like an episode on EPKs.
Oh, yeah, it's a whole episode, yes.
Okay. I'm like, I know we've mentioned them briefly, but like, you know, electronic press kit. And it basically is just going to have all your information in there that you want the booker to, or everything the booker would need to know if they are considering booking you.
Yeah, well, and you have a couple, because you have different ones. You have one for like booking, and booking different types of shows, originals versus full bands, cover gigs versus this and that, and types of like events like weddings versus birthday parties or like songwriter showcases, that kind of stuff. And then there's also
for press too.
Yeah, press one for like when you have releases coming out, and when you have, or just like an overall, like if you have an interview, like send off like a good thing. It has photos, it has video links, it has a bio, it has links to other press, so that they kind of get an idea of
show
who you
calendar. They might, or if you have your show calendar on there, they can kind of see like what you already have booked too.
Oh, I don't keep a show calendar on there, but again, that's a whole other episode though. So
yeah,
but another thing to keep I was gonna go back to the other point too, was that to also kind of book around if you have press or something else in that area already. Like when I was going home, I was doing a segment on the news, and then it also happened that I got then an spot in a music festival, so then I had also something to talk about, not only in the newscast that I was on, but also like it gave me a reason to be there for a couple things. So
yeah, I think the only other thing with email was I don't know how you feel about it, of like if you put your rates in your initial email or you wait for them to reach out and ask about it.
I do a reach out if you want to know kind of thing.
Yeah, I personally don't like putting it in the initial email because they probably have some type of set budget for their music, and if you give them a budget or you give them a rate and it's out of their budget, they might assume, okay, like we're not going to book you. But
yeah, I mean, don't undersell yourself. Be sure to like make sure you're accurately negotiating for yourself. Don't be afraid to ask for more. I know, but also,
but if you're willing to take a lower amount and they don't know that, they might just not book you. Because, like...
Yeah, don't be selfish about it, too. Like, if you don't get paid $1,500 to play a little cafe and at noon, like, you know, I think you're...
One of the bars Sammy and I played at, I think we told them $400, and they're like, we can do $300, and we're like, cool. And before we sent that, we were like, $250 we're okay with as our minimum. So.
Well, I mean, and even know the value and worth of your music, so, like, make sure that you're asking for enough, but also, like, if it's worth the exposure and stuff, like, if you're not getting paid to, I know this isn't true, but this is just what came to my mind. If you're not getting paid to play, like, Lollapalooza because you're on, like, the tiniest little stage, I mean, it's going to be worth going to play Lollapalooza or CMA Fest. That probably would have been a better example because you don't get paid.
Yeah, that one's in town, I feel like, too, though, But yeah, I would say just, like, have a minimum you're willing to take, but you can also, like, say, like, a higher amount and then just say you're willing to negotiate when they respond. Oop, I just hit that.
I always give a range. I'm like, this kind of range is what I get paid for like, X kinds of gigs, but I'm willing always to work with you.
I'll put, like, my hourly rate, too, because you can do, like, I guess it doesn't really matter if you do an hourly or like this is my set for a show, but I said hourly, and there was a venue last summer when I said that they're like, you could do 2 or 3 hours. So I was like, well, if you're giving me my rate, I'm gonna do 3 since it's hourly. That's an extra amount. But there was a Minneapolis venue I was looking at playing at last year, and they were trying to pay me like a percentage of their sales for the night, and it was going to be a Wednesday night. And I was like, what do you think roughly it would probably amount to? Because I know they can't guarantee because they don't know what their sales will be. But they said probably it's usually around like $50. I was like, considering I'm traveling, that's not going to work for me. So I didn't take the gig. So, like, you're allowed to say no. Just because they respond back to you doesn't mean you have to play there, even though you asked to play there. Like, you don't have to actually book with them if the money is not there, or if hello, ant is barking. I
think he's barking at the door.
Okay. Or for really any reason, you don't have to take them. Like, sometimes maybe you'll have 2 different venues both get back to you, and it's for the same date, so obviously you're gonna have to choose between people or between venues. But yeah, because you want to reach out to more venues than what you're going to end up doing, because odds are you're not going to get a response from everyone. So you're going to want to just kind of reach out to a lot to increase your chances of making sure you get shows booked for the run. And my next thing was how far in advance to reach out. And it's kind of difficult because, like, all venues are kind of different in how they book their music. Some will book like a year in advance, and then others will be like a few weeks in advance. So you want to give yourself like time to like get them to respond, and time to get like everything in order as far as a tour for travel and your plans and all that. But you might have to like follow up a few times. And if you still have like an opening, let's say a venue has like, they book a couple weeks out and you still have like a Saturday that you haven't booked anything for, but you got your Thursday, Friday set up, then you're following up and they get back to you. And it's like, there you go. That might be more of like a last minute gig that you get added, but why not if it makes sense with your routing and everything. But for my tour this year, I started in January, and I know I had some that like weren't booking quite yet, and they told me that, and then I just followed up later, like a few months later when they started the booking process. So sometimes they'll let you know, other times they'll just not answer until they're ready to actually book those dates.
Yeah.
But also with following up, I would say like minimum of 2 weeks. You could also maybe like wait a month if it's out far enough, but I would say maybe 3 follow-ups maximum, 4 including the original email, because you don't want to be harassing these people.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the most you want to do, and then you're just gonna have to give up on them because you don't want them to be like, oh my god, they're harassing us.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's just they don't have dates open, but they aren't taking the time to respond to tell you that, which is frustrating, but it is what it is. So you just maybe...
Or sometimes they're just getting so many emails that yours just gets buried at the bottom, and it's just good to, like, bring it up to the top every so often. So
right. But if it is that they, like, just don't have dates available, and then, like, next year you want to reach out again for a different tour, like... If you were harassing them so much, they're not going to want to respond to you when they do have dates.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The name of the game for a lot of this stuff is don't completely burn the bridge.
Yeah. Also with, like, fairs and festivals, they might have on their website some sort of, like, contact form or, like, form to just, like, sign up to be considered for stages. So keep an eye out for those, too, when you're looking into fairs and festivals. Or they'll have, like, deadlines of, like, send emails to this email by this date to be considered. So that's another thing if you're looking at, like, specific things that are, like, happening at a specific time versus, like, a bar. Let's see. I'm reading my additional things. We already talked about make sure you know if you need to provide the sound equipment or not for your show. You don't want to show up unprepared and it's like, oh, now we're just completely acoustic and we're going to be drowned out by the bar because we don't have anything to amplify us.
Yeah.
And it's good to follow up when the date gets closer with the venues that you did book shows with, just to, like, confirm everything for the day of the show. Get any information about parking, if there's any tab for the musicians for food or drink, how you're getting paid, so check or cash or Venmo, however they're going to pay you. It's good to know all of that ahead of time. So, and also just to make sure that the date's still good and that nothing happened where they double booked and, or they, like,
and that will happen
about it. Yes, it has happened. For a cover gig, at least, not for, like, a whole on tour gig, but still.
I see it a lot on. I'm on a Facebook post, like, group, and it's like a touring group page. So like if like some people have been like, we're coming to Illinois next month, and they double booked us, and so, like, it does happen. Or like the day before, you'll get the. So it does happen on the tour stuff too. Yeah. That's how I know. So
yeah. And then my last little section is just, you booked a tour. Now what? Dates are set. Travel arrangements are made. And now what do? You want to make sure you're marketing the tour.
Right. Promotion is
content
key. Making sure that they have a promoter at the venue, that they're doing their job as well. Yes.
Make sure that they're helping promote it as well. But you want to design your marketing for your tour. Give it a name if you haven't yet. If in your booking emails you were just being generic of like, hey, we are doing a tour, because you haven't, if you're doing it far enough in advance, you might not have figured that part out yet. Give it a name. Typically, well, for sure have it be something that goes with your brand, but typically it'll be like a song or an album title. So like mine's Runaway Heart Tour for my album last year was Hello Good Times for the song. So, because that helps promote that music as well, just from the title of it. And create like graphics with like the dates and locations to share on socials, and like plan out a whole social media promo for it. I would say maybe like a month before you can announce the tour is probably good for something like this, where it's not like ticketed shows. If there's ticketed shows, it's going to depend on when tickets go on sale and stuff like that for when you want to announce stuff. But
you kind of want to announce it as early as possible, though.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I just do a month in advance for mine, just because they're such small venues, but...
Like, for ticketed shows.
Oh, ticketed, yeah. Ticketed, yeah. As far in advance as possible.
Yeah, so that you can sell tickets starting as soon as possible.
Because I know that, like, with the big tours, they'll announce it, and then it'll be like, pre-sale is this date, and main general admission sale is this date, and I feel like it's usually, like, that week or the next week for a lot of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to announce it obviously before tickets go on sale, but not so far in advance that people forget that tickets are going on sale and forget about it. But then you can also do like posts leading up to the tour, like X days till tour, and then posting throughout tour of like, oh, this show was fun, and maybe like a picture or a video of the show. Not those exact words,
this
but
show
like
was fun.
Something about the show being great, and like, we're coming to you next, whatever city. I mean, Taylor does that for every city she goes to, so I guess maybe that's an example of how to post for tours. And then you can also do like behind the scenes content while you're on tour on your stories or TikToks of your traveling and all that stuff too. So there's just plenty of opportunities for content for your socials, to promote the tour and just to have content in general. And then depending on how big your tour is, you could do like a weekend recap for the different weekends, but also do one at the end of the tour of an overall tour recap too. And I don't know why this is at the end of my document, because it just feels very random, but also merch. Like, if you have merch or want to make merch for tour, that's another way to like get a little bit of more money and promote your stuff, because then these people are buying like your koozie or your shirt, and people ask, oh, what's that? Have anything that you think we missed, or any comments or tips, I guess, you can email them to themusiclenspodcast@gmail.com, or comment them on our socials at the Music Lens Podcast on all the things, where you can also follow us and keep up with us. Rate and review on wherever you're listening, because that helps with the algorithm. I don't think I said that last week, so make sure to do that, because I forgot to promote that last week. Alex Allegra Music on all the things if you want to follow Alex, and you can follow me at KDP Music. Yay!
That's everything. See you next time.
Bye.